for the Interior and Local Government, Bangsamoro Autonomous Region for Muslim Mindanao of the Republic of the Philippines. Your Excellency, Mr. Junaid Ahmed Polok, Honorable State Minister, Information and Communication Technology Division, Ministry of Posts, Telecommunications, and Information Technologies of the People's Republic of Bangladesh, colleagues, distinguished participants, ladies and gentlemen. Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening from wherever you are joining. A warm welcome to the virtual launching event of the South-South Matchmaker 2019-2020 Best Practices. It is our pleasure to have you with us today. My name is Sawalak Sangsombun from the UN Office for South-South Cooperation. I will be an MC for session 1 and session 2 for today's event. This event is co-organized by the network, the South-South Network for Public Service Innovation Secretariat, aspire to innovate the government of Bangladesh, the United Nations Development Programme, and the UN Office for South-South Cooperation. We will now get to the agenda for today, starting with opening remarks. With no further ado, I'm pleased to invite Mr. Sudipto Mukherjee, Resident Representative, UNDP Bangladesh, to give his opening remarks.
Thank you very much. I think it's very early morning in New York, perhaps late evening in some parts from where some of the dignitaries are now joining from, and early evening here in Bangladesh. So I don't know whether the Honorable Minister has joined, but let me start with, the Honorable Minister is going to possibly join us very soon. Foreign Minister of the Republic of Bangladesh, His Excellency, the Honorable Minister for Interior and Local Government from the Bangsamoro Autonomous Region for Muslim Mindanao, who have had the privilege to meet here in Bangladesh, in Dhaka. My good friend and you can say he's the sort of youth icon of Bangladesh and perhaps for all of South Asia, Honorable Minister of State, Junaid Ahmed Polok, Senior Secretary, Ziaul Alam, good to see you, sir. I don't know whether Adil Abdul Latif from the Acting Director of the South-South Cooperation Office has joined or not, but he and I go back a long way in UNDP. Dennis, good to see you again. Abdul Manan, NPD, good to see you. Ani Chaudhry, Asad, all of you, a very good evening. I am absolutely delighted to join you at this launching ceremony of the South-South Matchmaker 2019-2020 Best Practices. In fact, we're fairly on time because this is just the second month of 2021. This records the partnership between the UNDP supported A2I program, which is it started as Access to Information, now it's Aspire to Innovate. Brand name remains the same, A2I. And the United Nations Office of South-South Cooperation, they started way back in 2017 of the Global South-South Development Expo. And if I remember correctly, this is an occasion which was actually graced by the Honorable Prime Minister Sheikh Hasina from Bangladesh. The first collaboration happened in the same year by organizing the Dhaka Workshop 2017, which I was actually I was lucky and privileged to attend. The South-South Network's first publication containing 22 global best practices, the Matchmaker, was published to include the match cases in 2017-2018. So this is the second publication. The United Nations Office of South-South Cooperation launched this first volume in the 2018 Global South-South Development Expo in New York. And today, this evening, we are gathered through this virtual ceremony to launch the second edition of the Matchmaker. And this time we have 2 additional best practices, to a couple of dozen best practices from 13 different countries around the world. Since the inception, the South-South Network for Public Service Innovation has expanded and reached out to 39 countries, and that's an amazing number globally for exchanging support among southern countries. To date, the network has helped replicate 17 initiatives in different countries. That's also quite an amazing achievement, and I think we need to celebrate it. In particular, I think there are a few things which have happened within UNDP, which I should sort of underscore and which will probably help us, not only carrying on supporting and being part of this amazing initiative, but perhaps not just in 39 countries, but export or matchmake across the globe in many more countries. So we have an accelerator lab. These are many countries across the globe that, these are 116 countries that UNDP set up accelerator labs with the purpose of accelerating good initiatives, which will help us in a progress towards the Agenda 2030. And I believe that the accelerator lab and this particular network has the potential to take initiatives jointly to share and implement development experiences, not just in southern countries. Perhaps at some stage we perhaps need to change the name and drop the South, and it should be an inter-country exchange. We have a chief digital office in UNDP. The chief digital office in New York has also launched a accelerator named Digital X, which aims to impact southern countries by exchanging development experience and extend support to implement best practices. And a few good practices of this particular network have already been identified as a global best practice by the Digital Accelerator Lab in 2021. Then we have the Crisis Bureau Office, which is not a new, we have had it in many years in different forms, has provided technical support to implement two significant initiatives of A2I. This is the X-Shop e-commerce platform and the National Intelligence for Skills Education and Employment and Entrepreneurship in 6 different countries, which have helped to accelerate the support to vulnerable people of Bangladesh during the period of COVID. Now, while in UNDP, we believe in mutual support and collaboration can bring much greater achievements. And I think, we are living in a much more unified world. I noticed the Honorable Foreign Minister has joined. And so, good evening, sir. I wanted to also mention, now that I see you, I wanted to mention that, I've had the privilege to be part of the minister's amazing work for South-South Cooperation for Bangladesh, a stellar publication, which I think is worthy of actually being published and sent across the globe. It records more than 40 good practices which Bangladesh can help the rest of the world with. And then I am very much excited to be part of this great initiative and proud to be at this particular launch. And I think that, this is something that we will continue to support. And let me conclude, I won't take much time. Let me conclude by quoting something, by reading something for you. The UN Secretary General, Mr. Antonio Guterres, in his report of March 2020, titled Shared Responsibility, Global Solidarity, Responding to the Socioeconomic Impacts of COVID-19, underlined that more than ever before, we need solidarity, we need hope, and the political will and cooperation to fight the crisis together. And that is why I'm underlining the fact that perhaps at some stage, it should not remain only South-South. We should be a global network connecting North-South, North-North, South-South, South-North, everything. And South-South cooperation principles of solidarity and empathy are needed more than ever before for an effective response and recovery from the pandemic. Developing countries have taken the lead in showing solidarity in response to COVID-19, providing personal protective equipment and other medical equipment. Furthermore, some have developed sub-regional and common regional strategies to overcome the pandemic. However, public service leadership is essential in policy making, building partnership, and supporting development solutions. So on this note, I once again thank the UN Office for South-South Cooperation and the government of Bangladesh through the A2I program, giving an opportunity for UNDP to have the honor to join and participate in this program. And thanks very much. And I take this opportunity because many of you are meeting for the first time in this particular year. This particular year is a special year for many reasons in Bangladesh. We are celebrating 50 years of Bangladesh, the formation of Bangladesh. We are celebrating the 100 years of the centenary of the father of the nation. We are celebrating perhaps in a few days, the CDP's recommendation for Bangladesh to graduate from LDC. And of course, we are celebrating spring right now. And with spring, we have hope right now I am also happy to note, I don't know, because I'm speaking to a global audience right now, that we have successful vaccination, which has started in Bangladesh, and all the friends and people that I know who have actually had the experience of getting vaccinated have told me that this is perhaps one of the best arrangements anywhere in the globe. Thank you very much, sir. Wish you all a good evening.
Thank you, Mr. Mukherjee. Next, I'm pleased to share the video message from Mr. Adel Abdel Latif, Director ad interim of the UN Office for South-South Cooperation. He will give us an overview of the role of South-South and triangular cooperation in the South-South Network for Public Service Innovation.
Excellencies, colleagues, ladies and gentlemen, it is my pleasure to join you today to speak on the role of the United Nations Office for South-South Cooperation in the South-South Network for Public Service Innovation. This is a collaboration that we are proud of. Indeed, our role in the network typifies the core functions of the United Nations Office for South-South Cooperation to support South-South cooperation in the UN and to support member states in their endeavors to share their development experiences with others. The United Nations Office for South-South Cooperation stands ready to support partners in line with its mandate. Before the formal launch of the SSN4PSI, the United Nations Office for South-South Cooperation facilitated meetings in which the government of Bangladesh stated the importance of knowledge sharing to help developing countries expeditiously adapt development solutions that have been developed in other countries. This led to the vision of this network presented to diplomats and UN leaders on the sidelines of the United Nations General Assembly meetings and other major meetings. To make the vision a reality, together with partners, we put in place a matchmaking workshop approach, which has been successful to identify and share public service delivery solutions across the South. The network builds upon the experiences of the Access to Information Project, a UNDP Government of Bangladesh initiative. The United Nations Office for South-South Cooperation experience with South-South knowledge exchanges and its South-South network were leveraged to expand this project to other countries. Today, Bangladesh and the United Nations Office for South-South Cooperation are all supporting the SSN4PSI. From its experience in compiling knowledge products through the South-South Galaxy platform and the South-South in Action and best practices publications, the United Nations Office for South-South Cooperation supported Bangladesh to document its experiences and the foundations of its knowledge, which it now shares with other members of the network. 63 case studies developed from the network have been uploaded on the South-South Galaxy and are available to the users of the Galaxy. A South in Action, published together with the government in 2017, and then 2 volumes of the South-South Matchmaker have been compiled. The second volume is the one that we are launching today. Our partnership with the Astana Civil Service Hub enjoys strong collaboration building upon the strengths of the United Nations system. The United Nations Office for South-South Cooperation continues to nurture these partnerships by giving a voice to the network in major events such as the BAPA Plus 40 in 2019 and the Global South-South Development Expo. This outreach has enabled a rapid expansion of the network to 39 countries. Out of the many documented solutions, some partners request support for scaling up. The United Nations Office for South-South Cooperation has developed selection criteria so that the process is transparent and intended achievements and beneficiaries clear. The selection criteria were endorsed by the government of Bangladesh in January 2021. The United Nations Office for South-South Cooperation has supported missions by the SSN4PSI Secretariat to encourage adaptation of identified public service delivery solutions in least developing countries, for example in Somalia in 2019. In working with partners, the United Nations Office for South-South Cooperation promotes empathy and aspiration to achieve mutual gains. These principles are at the heart of the South-South Cooperation principle that no country is too big to receive help or too small to provide assistance. Thus, in the network, today's providers are tomorrow's recipients and vice versa. In conclusion, following from this example of complementary partnership with know-how from Bangladesh, the United Nations Office for South-South Cooperation stands ready to partner with you to further invest resources in South-South exchanges. I look forward to hearing the results of your deliberations. Thank you.
As a member of the Secretariat of the SSN4PSI, it's now my pleasure to call on my colleagues who have led us to compile the South-South Matchmaker to deliver some remarks about the network. I would like to invite Mr. Asad Ussaman, Policy Specialist of Aspire to Innovate Program, ICT Division, Cabinet Division, UNDP Bangladesh, and Lead Secretariat of the South-South Network for Public Service Innovation to talk about the network.
Thank you, Diu. Excellencies, distinguished guests, esteemed colleagues, thank you for allowing me to share the presentations on the second volume of the South-South Matchmaker. On the sidelines of the 71st session of the United Nations General Assembly, UNGA, in September 2016, the establishment of a collaborative South-South network for public service innovation, SSN4PSI, was proposed by the Honorable Prime Minister of Bangladesh and UNDP Administrator. SSN4PSI was launched at the Global South-South Development Expo in Antalya, Turkey in November 2017, jointly by the United Nations Office for South-South Cooperation and the Government of Bangladesh. Dear colleagues, the South-South Network is a global collaborative platform that engages government, private sector, UN agencies, development partners, experts, and academia to exchange ideas, experiences, and expertise to harness innovations through matchmaking. The network uses a unique export-import methodology to establish partnership among the southern countries. Matchmaking ensures that countries which successfully tackled public service challenges export solutions to countries that need them to the most. The matchmaking model goes beyond traditional knowledge sharing and peer-to-peer learning, like a problem owner in importer country identifies problem, importer country reaches out to a network, an innovative solution is found in an exporter country, importer country adapts the solution to fit its context facilitated by the network. The proven solution is scaled up for impact, and finally lessons and insights are diffused globally. The network focuses on 6 thematic areas: the future of public service delivery, future of civil administration, future of work, future of data innovation, future of finance, and future of commerce. The network has 39 general body members across the world, out of them 26 countries and 13 organizations. Among the general body members, 21 from the Asian Pacific, 8 from Africa, 2 from Latin America and Caribbean, 3 from North America, and 5 from Europe regions. The key activities of the network are organizing matchmaking workshops in different corners of the world, monitoring and follow-up for the potential matchmaking opportunities, facilitating field visits to learn from the best practices, ensuring replication and implementation of the best practices, creating knowledge products, enhancing triangular cooperation to mobilize resources to replicate best practices. Since the establishment, the network has a few significant achievements, such as network organized 15 matchmaking workshops in different regions of the world, arranged 16 webinars during COVID-19, facilitated 16 field visits to learn from the best practices, created 4 publications, including 2 South-South matchmakers, and replicated best practices in 17 countries. Currently, the network is supporting the government of Bhutan, Cambodia, Nepal, Maldives, Philippines, Syria, Lebanon, Fiji, Turkey, Uganda, Nigeria, Somalia, Sudan, Peru, and Colombia. So this is all from my side. So now I am requesting my colleague, Mr. Dennis Nkala, to share rest of the presentation. Thank you.
Thanks, Asad. It's now my pleasure to call on Mr. Dennis Nkala, Regional Coordinator, the UN Office for South-South Cooperation for Asia and the Pacific, to give a presentation on the second volume of the Matchmaker. Over to you, Dennis.
Thank you very much, too. If you allow me, I would like to share my screen. Let me try. Let me see. Can you see my screen now? Hello? Oh. Hello, can you see?
Not visible yet.
Sorry?
The screen is not visible. I think you have to probably share that particular window.
Yeah, I have the screen in front of me, but you guys cannot see it. Maybe the secretariat can help me.
We cannot
Asad,
see it.
Asad, since you were able to share your screen, do you have Dennis's presentation? You could help him.
We can do that.
Yeah, so I'll have the presentation, right?
Yeah, sure.
Okay.
I'm sharing my screen.
Great.
I've kind of lost
you. Can you see the screen now?
Yeah, I kind of lost the meeting, but can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
We can hear you.
Okay, so I'll just speak to the screen that I have in front of me so that we do not waste time. So, Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, friends and colleagues, it is my pleasure to speak to you on this occasion of the launch of the South-South Matchmaker, the volume for 2019 to 2020 best practices. In front of the screen, you will see the South-South Galaxy. I put that in front because it is a very important step in the development of the Matchmaker. We had the first volume already uploaded on the Matchmaker. And as of today, we have uploaded the second volume. And for those of you that may not know about the South-South Galaxy, there may be those who in the past were used to know about the Web of Information for Development, also called the WIDE. Well, the Galaxy is sort of the modern WIDE with information on development solutions, matchmaking website, and a number of interested partners can request to actually have a page on the South-South Galaxy so that they can be reached by the global South. And so we're very proud to have the Matchmaker uploaded on that. I'll move on to the next slide, which is now to say what I'm going to talk about in the next 5 minutes or so. My colleagues, including the resident representatives, have already gone into detail about the network and also described the South-South Matchmaker. So I'd like to take a different path and provide some reflections. And secondly, I'll talk about who contributed to this volume and also to thank them. And thirdly, I will project some ideas from the Secretariat. Coming on to the reflections on the South-South Network for Public Service Innovation and South-South Matchmaker, I wanted to say that the South-South Network is very important for South-South cooperation. Why do I say so? It's because it is a very tangible and practical approach to South-South and triangular cooperation. Sometimes I like to give anecdotes to illustrate the points I'm making. In 2019, we had a workshop with UNICEF. And at the end of the workshop, we had the matching exercise under the South-South Network. And present in the matching workshop was the director of UNICEF for South Asia. During the meeting, she commented that I had heard a lot about South-South cooperation, but a lot of the times I had questions about what South-South cooperation is. Today, I've seen South-South cooperation in action, and I think it is the right way to do South-South cooperation. So I think so as well, that the network is very helpful in bringing South-South cooperation in a tangible and practical way, where we don't have to really worry about, is it South-South cooperation? Is it different from the regular kind of cooperation? We are confident that this is a good approach to deliver on South-South and triangular cooperation. The second point I wanted to make is that the matchmaker itself is an enabler for knowledge sharing to support the matchmaking workshop. Why do I say so? Because if you just bring people together to exchange information, it may not be sufficient. With the matchmaker, we actually capture those development experiences. After some participants have said, I'm interested in that solution, and somebody says, I'm interested in that solution, of course, there is the matching between the parties, but at the same time, we want to make sure that this is captured in the documentation of the matchmaker. And so the matchmaker is a document that will enable access to the same solutions by other people that may not be in that specific workshop. And then thirdly, I wanted to say that the matchmaker is a tool for scaling up. For example, we've mentioned that we have a lot of case studies. In this matchmaker alone, there are 24. And so in follow-up, we get requests for scaling up or for adaptation by countries. And we realized in the year of the pandemic 2020 that we needed the tools to be able to be transparent and select the relevant, select case studies for adaptation based on some criteria. And this is what was mentioned by the director of the UN Office for South-South Cooperation, who said that we have developed that criteria, and it's been submitted to the government of Bangladesh and to some members of the advisory board. And so we'll be moving forward with that. Let me go on to the next slide now. On this slide, I wish to talk about the contributors and the themes covered in the second volume of the Matchmaker. As you can see from the slide, we have 24 practices documented, and the contributors are from 8 countries, as you can see, ranging from Bangladesh, which is the co-host for the network with the UN Office for South-South Cooperation, to countries in Southern Europe, North America, the Pacific, neighboring India, Arab states, Jordan, Central Asia, Kazakhstan, and one case from Nigeria. It does not mean that each country contributed one case. There are several countries or institutions from those countries that contributed cases. But looking at the kind of the subjects that were covered in this area, we have contributions mostly on education and employment skills development. This was quite prevalent from institutions in India and in the region from Jordan. We also had case studies that focused on agriculture from FAO. There were several of those. I talked about employment. I should also mention the International Labour Organization from the United Nations. We also, of course, have the important aspect of focusing on the youth with the Generation Y Youth, which is supported by UNICEF. The anecdote I gave was, in fact, from this meeting of Generation Y Youth. So as you can see that we're dealing with public service innovation, but at the same time, the issues that the network has been tackling have been very relevant to the development discourse that we are having: youth, urbanization, employment creation, and so on. And so thinking about that, maybe we can consider the next volume to look at the matching that has taken place in the context of the COVID-19 pandemic and other disasters. If I may proceed to the next slide, please. This is the thoughts on the way forward from the Secretariat. Of course, these are ideas that have either just been thought out by the Secretariat, or some of them have been sounded out with some members of the advisory board, like Anne. We hold this South-South network as a very important tool to address some of the sustainable development goals. Why is it so? We find that it is particularly useful to address the vulnerable, and most of the vulnerable people live in remote rural areas. A lot of the innovation that has taken place in Bangladesh and other countries has precisely been targeted at these people. And so if we are going to have a fair chance as different countries to achieve the sustainable development goals, we have to look at these people who are at the bottom of the pyramid. And the tools from the network are particularly important to do that. We also need to scale up with resources to enable the adaptation. As we have said in the presentation, you have seen that the network has grown. A lot of people are really investing in it. But still, when we get the requests for support for adaptation, our resources are still very limited. So today, our direct appeal is to the partners that are listening, as well as to the government and the United Nations, that we need to scale up the resources to support these adaptations. One important thing that I wanted to note is that if you look even at the BAPA plus 40, the member states of the UN have asked the United Nations system to facilitate South-South cooperation, not necessarily to implement. They would like to continue to implement and on the agenda for South-South cooperation. The network is such a good example. And if we can provide the resources for the countries and institutions in their countries to cooperate and help each other, I think that might just help some of them that may be struggling with some issues just by learning from others and adapting. Also, the network is very much in line with the outcomes of BAPA plus 40, which strongly called for the inclusion of other development players in South-South cooperation. As you can see in some of the case studies, we have civil society, we have the private sector, as well as the government coming in, plus the United Nations. So this is the wholesome component of our players in development cooperation. And under the network, we seem to have been able to bring these together. So I would say that in general, what we have seen from the wide, which I talked about at the beginning, to a lot of information on knowledge, the most successful platforms for South-South cooperation have been in knowledge. And the South-South Network for Public Service Innovation is one good example. We look forward on working on documents. Sorry, I should rather say we are working on documents to convene the advisory board, a meeting for the South-South Network, with the hope that we take it from the scale, the level where it is right now, to a higher level where we can develop more partnerships. We hope that the board members will help us develop those partnerships. But we also hope that the partners that are listening together can come forward and work with us as we put together these documents to scale up and prop up this promising initiative. So, Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, this is the end of my presentation, and I thank you very much.
Thank you, Dennis. Before I move to session 3, I would like to play a short video about SSN for PSI. I hope everyone's enjoyed the video. Now, I wish to invite Mr. Anil Choudhury, Policy Advisor of Aspire to Innovate Program, ICT Division, Cabinet Division, UNDP Bangladesh, and Advisor to the South-South Network for Public Service Innovation, to moderate session 3 and the rest of the program tonight. Over to you, Mr. Choudhury.
Thanks very much, Dew. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Excellencies, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, colleagues from all over the world, good evening, good afternoon, and good morning. We're running a little late, so I'll go a little fast, but I'm very privileged and pleased to moderate the high-level segment of today's publication ceremony of the second volume of the South-South Matchmaker of the South-South Network for Public Service Innovation. This network came together, as you heard, through a clarion call of the Prime Minister, Honorable Prime Minister of Bangladesh, Sheikh Hasina, at the UN General Assembly in 2016. And this call was supported by many heads of states and heads of UN agencies present there. And it's really great to see. We saw in the video just now where the network has come, supporting Southern countries by Southern countries. So it's really an example of for and by the countries of the South on public service innovation. So that was the focus of the network. And we are very proud from A2I to provide the secretarial support for the network. So we see that today's publication, it includes 24 global best practices from 13 different countries around the world. And we'll talk about that more. But let me, without further ado, invite our Honorable State Minister for ICT, His Excellency Zunaid Ahmed Polok, MP, to give his remarks. Let me start with a question for him. Honorable State Minister, you're leading the implementation of Digital Bangladesh with the guidance of our Honorable ICT Advisor to the Prime Minister. With your vast experience that you've had in leading Digital Bangladesh implementation, how do you think the network for public service innovation can really help Southern nations?
Thank you very much, Mr. Anit Chaudhry, for moderating today's event and this webinar and contributing to build Digital Bangladesh continuously. And also, I would like to give my heartiest thanks to South-South Network for Public Service Innovation for inviting me to join today as a speaker in this launching ceremony of the South-South Matchmaker 2019-2020 best practices. And also, we have with us today's chief guest, Honorable Minister for Foreign Affairs of Bangladesh, Dr. Momen. At the outset, I would like to pay my homage to the founding father of Bangladesh, Bangabandhu Sheikh Mujibur Rahman, who dreamt of a golden Bengal. This year, we are celebrating the centennial birth anniversary of Bangabandhu Sheikh Mujibur Rahman, who laid the founding stones on which our nation built upon. I would like to also pay my homage to the memories of 1952 language movement martyrs who made supreme sacrifices on this month of February, on 21st February, to establish the rights of the mother tongue, Bangla. In 1999, UNESCO declared 21st February as the International Mother Language Day, and it is observed today throughout the world. And I would like to respond and answer to your question, but before answering to your question, I just want to share the background of Digital Bangladesh Vision. Honorable Prime Minister Sheikh Hasina declared the Digital Bangladesh Vision in 2008. And for the last 12 years, we have been working with ICT to achieve her vision with the guidance of her Honorable ICT Advisor, the main architect of Digital Bangladesh, Mr. Sajib Wazir Joy. The primary focus of Digital Bangladesh Vision has been on innovation. If we can talk about the innovative solutions or homegrown solutions or no-cost, low-cost solutions in partnership with private sectors, so definitely I would like to mention about Union Digital Centers. In 2010, under the Prime Minister's Office Access to Information Program, initiated this Union Digital Center program, which is a public-private partnership model for service delivery to the last mile, for which we have received many international awards. In 2014, Honorable ICT Advisor, Mr. Sajib Wazir Joy, launched the largest national portal, the first of its kind, which now houses over 55,000 government websites. In 2010, our leadership had the foresightness to understand the impact of mobile financial services, and we approved the policy that led to the evolution of mobile financial services in Bangladesh. During this pandemic, the Honorable Prime Minister distributed 2,500 taka to over 5 million people through MFS using our very own central aid management systems, CAMPS. This was possible because we already had an ecosystem where almost 90 million people were using mobile financial services. 110 million people are now connected with internet. Now we are developing an integrated digital transaction platform to be launched this year to ensure interoperability among all the financial transaction platforms. During the pandemic, we have used ICT effectively to ensure continuity in health, education, supply chain and logistics, and other essential services. Our document approval system, eNothi, ensured our government effectively functioned during the lockdown period. We have coordinated our startups, IT, and e-commerce companies through our Act Shop, health, education, and food for nation platforms to effectively provide all the essential services during the lockdown period. All these activities helped us achieve positive GDP growth of over 5.25% during the COVID-19 period last year. Recently, to distribute the vaccine effectively, we have developed our own solution, Shurokkha, through our Department of ICT. What Mr. Sudipta Mukherjee, a country representative of UNDP, mentioned about our vaccination program. So each and everywhere, we are promoting the public and private partnership method. So it is very effectively working. To create a culture of innovation under ICT division, we have created the Innovation Design and Entrepreneurship Academy and Startup Bangladesh company. And also we are in a process to establish Agency to Innovate, in short, A2I, through which we support R&D projects and startups. Looking ahead, we are focused on developing our youth in the 4IR stack. We are building Sheikh Hasina Institute of Frontier Technology, Center for 4IR, 300 schools of future, 35,000 Sheikh Russell digital labs in education institutes, 64 Sheikh Kamal IT training incubation centers, and digital skills, employment, and training centers, DSET centers across the country. To promote and create a culture of excellence in leadership, we are building a digital leadership academy where we will groom our leaders from both the public and private sectors. These are just few of examples of our initiatives, and I believe that we can work closely with our friends in the southern nations to disseminate our best practices through this South-South network for public service innovation. Recently, a few Bangladesh success cases are currently being implemented in southern countries, including the National Intelligence for Skills, Education, Employment, and Entrepreneurship in Jordan and Somalia, ActShop Rural Assisted E-Commerce to Colombia and Turkey, and MyGov to Philippines. We are organizing several international events this year to celebrate the centennial birth anniversary of the founding father of Bangladesh, Sheikh Mujibur Rahman, and also 50th anniversary of our independence. The ICT division is proud to organize the International Blockchain Olympiad in July and the World Congress on IT, WCIT 2021 in November. I would like to invite all our friends from the southern nations to participate either physically or virtually in these events. We have also organized Bangabandhu Innovation Grant, or BIG in short, through which we are funding 100 startups from Bangladesh as well as from across the globe. First prize, the grant amount would be 100,000 US dollars. I would like to encourage the startups from southern nations to apply for Bangabandhu Innovation Grant. Let me share the website link, www.big.gov.bd. As the pandemic continues to threaten economies of the world, Bangladesh is relying on digital technologies, strong infrastructure and facilities, and its digital human resources to steer its way through the new normal. And I welcome all the economies to collectively share our knowledge so that we may benefit from the lessons of each other. This is not the time to compete, but rather to collaborate to build together a better world. Thank you very much for your patient hearing.
Thank you very much, Honorable Minister Pollock, for your visionary remarks. You talked about how a visionary leadership can transform an impoverished nation to leapfrog using innovation and address massive challenges in poverty, in education and healthcare. So you talked about a spectrum of things. Thank you very much for that. Let me go to Mr. Robert Opp, who's the Chief Digital Officer of UNDP. Sudipto, in his opening remarks, talked about Digital X. The Chief Digital Office from New York is supporting digital initiatives across UNDP with the hope to support few initiatives of South-South Network in the future. For example, A2I has applied to CDO's Digital X Accelerator program with applications to scale the national intelligence for skills, education, employment, and entrepreneurship, social safety net programs, and the flagship program called MyGov. How can the Chief Digital Office of UNDP support initiatives of South-South Network to strengthen the movement of the South-South cooperation? Mr. Robert Opp.
Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, I'm deeply grateful for this invitation to participate in the online launch of the South-South Matchmaker publication. We started UNDP's digital transformation in 2019, but digital projects were already ongoing in many places before that with our partners. A2I in Bangladesh is a shining example of how UNDP and our partners in government created something very powerful and impactful in terms of a digital development platform in the country. But a general observation that we had when we started the digital transformation and looked at what the organization was doing is that innovations were happening in many places, but they weren't always scaling easily. I think it's because sometimes it's hard to know what's going on out there. There's so much information and yet not the right information. And the second reason is because of a lack of resources and support mechanisms to support that kind of scaling. I think the South-South Matchmaker publication is a great effort to help bridge the knowledge gap. And we're looking at ways that we can support digital South-South collaboration along other means. So one of the main platforms we've created is called Digital X, which is a digital innovation scaling accelerator that's really meant to try to address that resource and support gap that I mentioned. The goal of Digital X is to identify and scale bold and proven digital innovations. I can give a couple examples from some of the things that we've seen from A2I. A2I's innovative job training platform, NICE, which connects youth and skills providers and job providers, is now looking to scale in Jordan and Somalia. Similarly, MyGov, the one-stop government service platform developed in A2I, is looking to be implemented in the Philippines. These are great examples of the kinds of applications that we're looking for in Digital X that feature country office to country office collaboration. And it's not always with countries, it's also new types of partnerships. We know, for example, that A2I is looking at bold new partnerships with nonprofits such as Give Directly to utilize artificial intelligence and cell phone data to target support to the most vulnerable in a more effective and efficient way. So once we identify the innovations with the potential to scale, then team members of mine will work with the project teams themselves, bringing resources, expertise, and networks that can help make them successful and available as new global digital solutions. Now, beyond Digital X, we're also working on a couple of other mechanisms. So one is the country support help desk. This is where countries can reach out to us and request support for the work they're doing in digital. And we can provide in some cases, technical expertise like developers or human-centered design, or we can link to external partners and experts who are working in the area. But sometimes, in fact, many times, it's also easy to connect them with other countries working on similar examples so that there's already an inbuilt connection, and then we can help facilitate that to really make it powerful and impactful. Now, the last thing I want to mention is the Digital Advocates Network. and that is a global network of digital champions that we're creating in UNDP. There will be one in each office globally, so there will be about 200 in total. And these will become a new digital community of practice for the organization. They're kind of like our eyes and ears on the ground for digital work, and hopefully they can become powerful channels for information exchange and really identifying where there needs to be work done and where some of the collaboration can happen. So we have amazing examples of digital innovation happening in countries globally. And we look forward to working together with the South-South Network to find ways to connect these initiatives and multiply our impact toward the achievement of the Sustainable Development Goals. Thank you very much for having me with you.
Thanks, Robert. We learned about how UNDP is facilitating South-South cooperation on public service innovation. So that's very encouraging to hear. Let me go to Dr. Nabil Gohar, the Assistant Secretary General of the Commonwealth Secretariat in London. Nabil, good to see you. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can. Good to see you too, Anir.
Great. I have a question for you. So the Commonwealth aims to accelerate economic development by promoting partnerships, coordinated activities, South-South knowledge sharing, and scaling up and showcasing development solutions from the Global South. How will the Commonwealth help to promote South-South networks initiatives to tackle the common challenges among the Southern countries? Over to you, Nabil.
Well, Excellencies, colleagues, Anir, my friend, good afternoon from London. Let me also add, which has not been said earlier, Assalamu alaikum and Shubh Shindab. Many thanks for inviting the Commonwealth Secretariat in the launch of this important publication. It's a fantastic and exciting read. I loved the way you have brought these inspiring stories together, ranging from village courts in Bangladesh to Project Rangit in India to empower the next generation. Because I have read it, I thought before I answer your question, I must mention that. Now, thanks to your long question, Anir, you have cleverly embedded 5 questions in one. I know you're very innovative and you have made the best use of it. Now, let me tackle it one by one. On how do we promote partnerships? That's the first part of your question. This has been the DNA of the Commonwealth Secretariat and the Commonwealth in general for many decades, but has been the focus of attention in the recent past. Our innovation formula, I come from the engineering background, so we'll use a little bit of mathematics here, is 4D into P. So 4Ds are data, delivery, display, and discovery, while P stands for partnerships as a multiplier for everything. Now, the second part of your question, on coordinating activities, how do we do that? Our core business, as you know, Anir, is convening meetings for the exchange of ideas and coordinated action. Let me give you 2 examples. The Commonwealth's Blue Charter is our framework to protect the word ocean. We are the coordinators of 10 action groups formed by our member states. Similarly, our prosperity agenda is led by 4 trade connectivity clusters. In both cases, we are coordinating action for 54 Commonwealth countries. This includes many innovative ways of doing this developmental work. And by the way, Bangladesh is very actively participating on both fronts, and we are very happy about it. Third part of your question, South-South knowledge sharing. So I've listened to it very carefully. As I said, you have very intelligently and innovatively put it together, but I'll take the opportunity to answer all 5 aspects of your question. South-South knowledge sharing. Our innovation hub shares a lot of innovative work that is being done in Commonwealth countries. Bangladesh took lead in developing SDG tracker. Does this sound familiar, Anir?
Yes, absolutely.
It was perhaps, it was part of our showcasing the best practice. And I think it was your baby. Our Frugal Innovation Toolkit will be launched soon, which has a number of public sector innovation stories. We are part of the South-South Galaxy network, which was mentioned. And actually, we are very thankful that they are promoting our SDG Innovation Awards. Fourth part of your question on scaling up. We are working with partners such as UNSC's Special Envoy on Technology, UN Technology Bank, which is based in Turkey, UNITAR in Geneva, OECD Observatory of Public Sector Innovation, then States of Change Program, Nesta here in the UK, Demos, Helsinki in Finland, UN Technology Innovation Labs, UNCTAD in Geneva, and UN India Fund for South-South collaboration. So they are our partners and we are working collaboratively to advance it. And the last part of your question on helping you to promote this initiative. I'm here to show my Secretary General's commitment to this initiative, this fantastic initiative, to appreciate your work and stand shoulder to shoulder with you in advancing it. We believe that not a single country, institution, or initiative can tackle the challenges, which are complex challenges of the 21st century, be it COVID, climate change, or any other challenge. We are in it together. Innovation and collaboration will be the key to advancing solutions. Over to you, Anid. I hope I have done justice to 5 parts of your question.
Excellent, Nabil. I mean, very cleverly done. You've covered all aspects of my question in a very succinct manner. Thank you very much for that, Nabil, as always. Let me go over to Benjamin Kampf. Ben, good to see you. We worked together when you were at UNDP. Now, hopefully we'll work together again as you are at OECD. So Benjamin Kampf, the Head of Development Innovation Team, Organization for Economic Cooperation and Development, OECD. So Ben, OECD has a task team on South-South cooperation, we understand. At the global level, OECD aims to contribute to evolving global effectiveness agenda by boosting horizontal partnerships and peer learning, making technical cooperation more useful, promoting Southern expertise, and contributing to development capacities. How can OECD support this initiative?
Thank you, Ania. Can you hear me well?
Yes, go ahead, please.
Thank you. Excellencies, colleagues, and fellow innovators. Thank you for the invitation and congrats to the launch of the report. I'd like to echo Nabil. It really is a fascinating read and I'm honored to be here. In response to your question, Ania, as the OECD, we have different entities and parts that support the sharing and uptake of innovative solutions to policy challenges and to transforming the public sector, including the Task Force on South-South, the Observatory for Public Sector Innovation, and the emerging practice that I'm leading up on development innovation within the Development Cooperation Directorate. And we invest in a number of mechanisms to support the sharing of innovative practices and their scale up, including the documentation of innovative partnerships, having also documented the story from the transfer of the SDG marker from Bangladesh to Peru in one of our publications, in contributing regularly to convening of different, including regional networks, the latest one in Latin America, and of course, the support to the Global Partnership for Effective Development Cooperation. And in our latest policy brief on South-South and triangular cooperation, we reiterated a finding that I think you all are very familiar with in terms of some of the major challenges that exist today, particularly among the OECD member countries and their foreign ministries and bilateral implementing agencies, to better support South-South cooperation. And one of the main bottlenecks is the overarching narrative that's shaped by high-level political will and the related legislation. And the view that investing in South-South cooperation incurs transaction costs. And with our work in the different parts of the OECD, we contribute to reshaping that mindset, frankly, and also reshaping the view on transaction costs into an investment. In my world, the world of innovation, particularly in low and middle income countries, I believe in different forms of innovation, but overarchingly that trusted relationships are really the currency for systemic change and successful innovation. So therefore reframing what's currently regarded often as transaction costs, which are really badly accounted for, to investments in trust and meaningful relationships is one of the steps that we are taking throughout our different entities in the OECD with our work on convening, on documenting and sharing. And on the work that I'm specifically leading in the OECD, our ambition is to improve how particularly bilateral agencies go about innovation. Internally for their own internal strategic capabilities, but particularly externally. And we conducted a first peer learning exercise to look at what's going well among bilateral agencies and where areas for improvement. And one of the major findings was that bilaterals need to do better to seek balance in their portfolios with a greater emphasis on anticipatory innovation and bottom-up adaptive innovation, and particularly on the latter one, to invest more in strategic focused collaboration, particularly with local and national actors and support of South-South cooperation. We published that report, convened many conversations, some of them public, some of them peer conversations, quite frankly, between OECD member states and the huge bilaterals. And we're following this up with right now developing a distinct innovation portfolio model with OECD member states that help them take a snapshot and review their innovation portfolios. And our ambition is to see the existing organizational silos between innovation practices and South-South practices in many of the development agencies, including the bilaterals. And we collaborate in that regard with the Observatory for Public Sector Innovation internally and with many external partners. And the last thing that I would like to mention, where we are also collaborating with, is a network called the International Development Innovation Alliance. And to celebrate successful innovators, particularly from the Global South, as the International Development Innovation Alliance, about a year and a half ago, we launched the Million Lives Club to celebrate innovations that go to scale, to provide them with greater visibility, to connect, and for those that have the ambition to either scale up within country or adapt in another country and seek further funding, to provide greater visibility for funding opportunities. So connecting the South-South network on public service innovation to the existing work of the OECD of public sector innovation, connecting initiatives such as the Million Lives Club to the great initiatives that are documented in the Matchmaker, and linking much greater our work kind of internally behind the scenes to the good work that's happening in the South-South network is for us on the way, on the development innovation path, the perspective moving forward. And as such, it's a great privilege being here. Thanks a lot, and back to you, Anya.
Thank you very much, Ben. Exciting collaboration possibilities. So Dennis and Assad, I think we have our work cut out for us with Nabil and Ben. I think lots of exciting possibilities. May I now invite His Excellency Naguib Sinarimbo, the Honorable Minister for the Interior Local Government, Bangsamoro Autonomous Region for Muslim Mindanao, Republic of the Philippines. His Excellency, we met in Bangladesh when you visited to look at a few of the innovations that we have done for digital Bangladesh, and the collaboration continues, and hopefully after the pandemic, I mean, we were not able to move as quickly as we had thought when we met in 2019 because of the pandemic. But now that things are coming back to somewhat more normal, not fully normal yet, I hope that our collaboration will continue very soon. A question to you, Your Excellency. You visited in September, we visited in September 2019, and you visited in December of that year. And the work was planned. So your thoughts on how we should scale up and maybe accelerate the work, and how do you want to implement the plan that we made about a year ago? Thank you very much. Your Excellency, can you hear us? Honorable
Yes.
Minister, we cannot hear you. If you could unmute.
Yes, Mr. Anir.
Yeah.
Can you hear us?
Please go ahead. Yes, now we can. Thank you.
Thank you
Go
very
ahead.
much. Thank you, Mr.
Thank you
Anir Chowdhury. Yes, I was privileged to meet you in Bangladesh in December 2019, together with Mr. Sudipto Mukherjee of the United Nations Development Program, as well as the Honorable Ahmed Puluk, the State Minister. And tonight, I'm happy to join the launch of the South-South Matchmaker and to to again engage with very good colleagues from all over the world. It is now evening in my country, in the Philippines, and so good evening to all of you. We were inspired by the innovations that was made in Bangladesh earlier, and our country, and specifically my region, the Bangsamoro region, and its government is a newly created institution that is granted autonomy by the national government. Part of what we are embarking on is a digital transformation in the region, not just in the area of public service delivery, but also in all other aspects of governance, as well as the private sector in the Bangsamoro. I think the timing for the plan for a digital transformation in the Bangsamoro Autonomous Region is in line with the desire of the region to pole vault into the next century. We've been left behind in terms of development for a long time because of the war that lasted for several decades in the south of the Philippines. And so as we are coming out of that war, we wanted to accelerate development in the region. In my visit to Bangladesh, I was really impressed by the digital transformation that's being undertaken by your country. In particular, the public service delivery in your country has really been transformed. That inspiration has led us last year to launch a localized version of the digital transformation in the Bangsamoro. We call this one the LIPS, or the Localizing E-Governance for Accelerated Provision of Services. The specific area of focus is to initially digitize and transition towards e-governance and the provision of digital services for our constituents in the region. Last year, we started with 2 local government units whose services are now being digitized and which can already be accessed by their constituents through the platforms created by the ministry in partnership with the United Nations Development Program. This year, we will add 10 more local government units, which will then provide their services to the public through the digital platform. In addition to the local government units, the different ministries in the Bangsamoro Autonomous Regional Government will also transition into digital service delivery for most of our constituents. Many of the innovations that you have started in Bangladesh really inspired this regional government to transition towards e-governance. Our hope is that we can continue to adapt and replicate the good practices from Bangladesh, taking into account the unique context of our region. But this one provides us an opportunity where we do not have to reinvent the wheel. We can just replicate the good practices and quickly transition towards a digital Bangsamoro in the future. My hope is that we will continue to exchange good ideas and best practices through this platform so that we can accelerate our transition into the digital Bangsamoro in the near future. Again, I am honored to join you tonight. I am happy to see good friends from Bangladesh as well as the rest of the world. Thank you very much. Good evening to all of you.
Thank you very much, Honorable Minister. We were very inspired by your leadership and your team's dedication and the support that we saw from UNDP Philippines. So together, I hope we'll be able to make a lot of good things happen and create new examples of South-South cooperation in the world. you've said something very important, which is we don't want to reinvent the wheel. We want to basically learn from mistakes that have been made in other parts of the world so that we don't make the same mistakes. So that's very, very important. May I now go to our Honorable Foreign Minister, His Excellency Dr. Abdul Momen, MP, Honorable Foreign Minister, Minister of Foreign Affairs, Government of the People's Republic of Bangladesh. Dr. Momen, you were instrumental when you were UN Permanent Representative of Bangladesh in New York. You were instrumental in facilitating many South-South cooperation dialogues and facilitating transfer of knowledge from one country to another. I remember you were a star at the BAPA Plus 40 in Buenos Aires a couple of years ago when we had that big conference organized by UN Office for South-South Cooperation. And you have been a believer of South helping the South always. And now as the Foreign Minister of Bangladesh, you are facilitating many collaborations with Bangladesh, with many other countries. So we are looking at a post-COVID world right now. Hopefully with vaccination and with many remarkable innovations around the world, we'll be able to beat the virus soon. So how do you see South-South cooperation play in this new world that we are seeing emerging? Thank you very much.
Thank you, Anuj Chaudhary. Thank you very much. You know, your excellent ladies and gentlemen, excellencies, you know that this year we are observing the 100th anniversary of the father of the nation, Bangabandhu Sheikh Mujibur Rahman, and also at the same time observing the 50th anniversary of Bangladesh. And if I would like to let you know, within last 50 years, Bangladesh did very well. Once it was known in this early 70s, it was known as a land of, it was known as a basket case with no hope of survival. But today, it is a vibrant economy. It's a land of opportunity. And in this year, we would like to share our expertise and experience and the miracle for which we have achieved this, you know, a land of opportunity. So thank you for, you know, asking me a question. And I would like to also convey my sincere appreciation to the UN Office of South-South Cooperation for their efforts and achievements. I also take this opportunity to thank South-South Network for Public Service Innovation for coming up with a platform for global matchmaking between the requirements and the supply. Today, I'm delighted to know that 24 best practices have been featured in the South-South Matchmaker 2019-20 best practices from 7 countries and 14 organizations. In 2017, I had the privilege to publish one document containing 48 best practices, out of which 40 from Bangladesh. And that's with the help of UNDP and the Ministry of Finance, I published this, you know, this document. It contains so many good experience and, you know, the practices. Out of that, let me give you a couple of them. One is known as ORT, oral rehydration therapy. And this is a homegrown, you know, little tablet. And if you take the tablet, if you put in simple water, then you do not have to have dysentery or cholera. Cholera outbreak is always very difficult. But after the innovation of it, cholera is in the museum in Bangladesh now. Recently in Haiti, there was an earthquake. After the earthquake, there was a large scale, there was an outbreak of cholera, and many people were dying. They didn't know about the ORT. If they would known that there would not have been that much fatalities, we could rush this ORT and millions, thousands of lives could be saved. You know, Bangladesh is a land where mostly rural people, and 54% of people are farmers, and they're relatively poor. So our Prime Minister started one program, another example, known as Ekti Bari Ekti Hamar, one family, one farm. And she started it to reduce the poverty, make them self-sufficient. And no wonder now we have reduced, it started exactly from initially 1996, but there was a disruption. but from 2009 onwards, it has started taking shape. The result is spectacular. Our below poverty level, it was around 42% people were below poverty level. But now it is around 20.5%, a dramatic change. And this particular program, largely contributed in reducing the poverty in Bangladesh. And I will end up with one, since Anit Choudhury is here. I also had the privilege to take one of his, the best practices, and that is about innovation management, public sector management. We have around 12.3 million Bangladeshi expatriates live abroad, and they often send remittance to their families. And when they send the remittance, the person, mostly ladies, they get it because their family is back home. So they have to go to a bank. It takes few visits. And when they go to the bank, it costs them, the transportation and also a lot of time. But after introduction of this innovative technology, there is a miracle. I give one example. For a single individual, it used to take 212 hours to go to the bank or some place to get the money. After this innovation, it takes only 2 hours. 212 hours reduced to 2 hours. And in terms of cost, it used to cost $1.6 to receive one check. And now it costs around $0.9, a reduction of 44%, the cost reduction. And also in terms of visits, they all used to have around 2.5 visits for each to get the check, because they have to go and talk to the bankers and others. Now it takes only one visit, another around 48% reduction. So this is known as TCB, and Anit Choudhury has been of AI, A2I, they have been started it. It's amazing how of late, as by introducing the digital system, it has further been improved. And now you don't have to make visits. So these are, I'm so glad that you have given around 24 best practices. Maybe we have to look into it and try to make use of them in Bangladesh, in other South-South countries. There has been substantial contribution from the South in terms of trade, investment, development, cooperation, and technological innovations. And the scope of South-South cooperation has expanded from technical fields to economic, social, cultural, technological, environmental, even political domains. The South is now poised to redefine international development cooperation structure. We have the confidence that South-South cooperation significantly contribute to the implementation of the transformative 2030 agenda and the SDGs. We have included South-South cooperation in our national policy for development cooperation. During my time as the UN Permanent Representative of Bangladesh in New York, I was fortunate to establish a strong tie and cordial engagement with the United Nations Office of South-South Cooperation and other countries of the South. I also ventured into ways of borderless sharing of knowledge and ideas among the Southern nations through a dedicated platform. The process is still ongoing through the Foreign Ministry of Bangladesh under my guidance, and I have written letters to all foreign ministers of the South to be united on this platform. I may also recall here with immense satisfaction that Bangladesh highlighted the importance of South-South cooperation in the implementation of 2030 agenda at the high-level meeting of South-South and triangular cooperation in the post-development agenda, financing for development in the South and technology transfer that we hosted in Dhaka in May 2015, even before its adoption by the UNDP. I had declared in Buenos Aires at BAPA plus 40 that Anit Choudhury was mentioning that we would set up South-South Knowledge and Innovation Center in Bangladesh. Let me here add one more thing, In 2010, UNDP and Bangladesh did a study, and we found out to achieve all the MDG goals, it would require us to have, this It requires us to have around $78 billion investment for 5-year term. $78 billion, which means each person, we have to spend around $120 for each person for each year. It's a lot of money. We have around 165 million people. So, but it is amazing. Bangladesh uses own homegrown, the innovations and technology, resulting in Bangladesh spent only around $9 per head, and which has achieved most of the MDG goals. And I call it a South-South innovation and practice. And those, the practices could be shared with others. How we did it is because, here, things, we may have many things. One example I give you, in the climate change area. We are the most disastrous country in terms of climate change. But we have our homegrown, the methodologies. We engage whenever there is any, cyclone or tidal waves. We engage around 52,000 volunteer, local volunteers, without cost. And now we are a star in the climate disaster preparedness program. We can share our expertise. We have recently established a GCA, Global Adaptation Regional Center in Bangladesh, with the view of sharing our expertise and experience with us. And we would welcome others' experience, expertise to share with other South-South countries. I always see opportunity in any challenge. And during this unprecedented crisis moment due to the COVID-19, the knowledge sharing process among countries emerged to be very practical and functional more than ever before. We have witnessed a borderless approach through a virtual medium to manage the common challenges and replicate success cases among the developing nations. Due to the general disappointment as a result of the global inequality and poverty, despite global economic growth, the emphasis began to shift from the economic growth theory to development to the growth through human development. It is a right design to remedy the effects of poverty, health and economic inequality, unfair trade rules, and the negative economic consequences of trade liberalization or globalization in developing countries. We need stronger South-South cooperation to establish these rights. This is even more valid after the devastation of the COVID-19 pandemic, as this unprecedented global health and economic crisis called for an equally global and exceptional concerted policy response. The South-South Network for Public Service Innovation has already connected 39 countries, a remarkable achievement. So I think that a strong partnership among the 39 countries by exchanging the best practices to mitigate the common challenges will become an example to the other nations worldwide. I encourage other LDCs, LLDCs, CEs to come under the same umbrella by joining South-South Network for Public Service Innovation and help each other through knowledge sharing. For the recovery from the COVID-19 pandemic, South-South cooperation is not only a vital means of cooperation because of similar situation and capacity in the developing countries. Sometimes it may be the most effective way to upgrade our service. Lastly, I will strongly recommend to engage the private sector into the efforts and the activities of South-South cooperation. Bangladesh government, especially the Foreign Ministry, will always remain as the strongest supporter of South-South cooperation and provide the support to expand the network in more countries globally. I request the UN Office of South-South Cooperation to continue the collaboration with South-South Network for Public Service Innovation, which they started in 2017 at the Global South-South Development Expo in Anatolia, Turkey. The Foreign Ministry and its mission will ensure, the ministry and its mission will ensure all the support from their end to the UN Office of South-South Cooperation and the South-South Network for Public Service Innovation. Collaboration in advancing development among South. You can have it. Joy Bangla, Joy Bangabandhu. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Honorable Foreign Minister. he pointed out something remarkable among the many things that he talked about is the TCV. So TCV is a way to measure inefficiency in public service that has become policy in Bangladesh. You know that the annual performance agreement that every ministry signs with the cabinet division, we have TCV as a marker of how we actually reduce TCV. So 2021 is a watershed year for Bangladesh, as you mentioned. It's the 100-year anniversary of our father of the nation. It's the 50th anniversary of the country. And very importantly, the year where we reach the achievements of digital Bangladesh to reduce TCV for our common citizens. And also the year where we beat the virus. And we do all of this together. So South-South cooperation is going to be an important tool to achieve all of this together, to reduce TCV and beat the virus together. Thank you very much for your very encouraging and inspiring remarks. And as you have inspired us all along the way since the time we met in New York when you were permanent representative to the UN. Now the time to launch the publication through a video. If we were together in one room, we'd be standing there with the books and would open the cover, but here we'll just do it with a video. Salman, go ahead.
We welcome you to this auspicious launching event of the South-South Matchmaker 2019 to 2020 Best Practices, a publication focusing on homegrown development solutions that have been tested and adapted across the countries. Among the country best practices, they are village court, innovations in apprenticeship, farmers' window, common assessment framework for improving the quality of the public sector, start to finish S2F service delivery tracker. And among the non-state best practices, they are Bright Future, Center of Excellence for Leather Skills, Project Rangit, Save the Children, Otter, and many more. May the sync between the countries of South shine bright.
Thank you.
We can clap, perhaps.
Yes, thank you. Very good.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Excellent.
We need a copy of it.
We are very. We should take a picture, I think, before we disappear. Take a picture for our posterity. Salman, if you could take a picture, follow us. Thank you very much.
All right.
May I now come to the... Yes. May I now come to the close of our session? I'd like to invite our respected Senior Secretary for ICT, Mr. N.M. Ziaul Alam, Minister of Post Telecommunication Information Technology. Mr. Alam, let me first congratulate you for achieving the #1 spot in our annual performance agreement, which we just talked about, where we reduced TCV tremendously. Your closing remarks, sir.
Thank you, Anil Bhai, for your very nice moderation today. Honorable Chief Guest, Dr. A.K. Abdul Momen, MP, Honorable Foreign Minister of Bangladesh, Honorable State Minister of ICT Division, Mr. Junaid Ahmed Polok, Bangladesh State Minister, His Excellency, Mr. Nawagib G. Siraningbo, Honorable Minister for the Interior and Local Government, Philippines, our most valued invited guest today, ladies and gentlemen. It is a very great joy for me today to join launching ceremony of the South-South Matchmaker 2019-2020 Best Practices. Thank you, Honorable Foreign Minister, Sir, Mr. Dr. A.K. Abdul Momen, for your presence, as we all know that you are very busy, and of course, for your most valuable speech today. We are very grateful to you, sir. Also, my gratitude to the Honorable State Minister, sir,
Mr. Junaid Polok, for your very encouraging speech today. We are very grateful to the Honorable Minister of the Interior and Local Government Philippines, Mr. Noagibji Sinaringbo, for sharing your very valuable inputs in this session. Thank you again, Mr. Sudipto Mukherjee, for your very insightful speech, as you are a very beloved person for us, and also presenting Bangladesh's good practice on COVID-19 vaccination. And thank you for other speaker for your valuable contribution. We all know that the unique level of commitment from the government of Bangladesh, especially from Honorable Prime Minister Sheikh Hasina, for digitization has been working as a driving force for the country to drive in the digital economy. The current government has accelerated the rapid digitization, also promoted innovation culture to spur progress in almost all sectors in Bangladesh. As a result, Bangladesh has been experiencing a digital transformation and consequently a sustained economic growth. For the 7th time in a row, Bangladesh has won World Summit on Information Society Oasis Award 2020. The most prestigious recognition in the field of information communication technology, with other very prestigious international awards, as our Honorable State Minister mentioned earlier. Currently, a lot of countries around the world are replicating Bangladesh's best practices to mitigate the common challenges in their countries. After the declaration of the Prime Minister of Bangladesh, Sheikh Hasina, on the sideline of the 71st session of the United Nations General Assembly at the United Nations headquarters, New York, 2016, to propose a collaborative South-South network on public service innovation. The South-South collaboration and government of Bangladesh, especially A2I program, jointly launched the South-South network for public service innovation. I am very delighted to know that the network has already been expanded about 40 countries worldwide and helped to replicate the best practice among southern countries. In the country, we are gradually automizing our service delivery system, also promoting innovation in different ways, as mentioned by our Honorable State Minister, Mr. Junaid Polok, to make a sustainable innovation ecosystem in our country. We are also able to share more best practice. As you know, we are very happy that our Honorable Advisor on ICT to the Honorable Prime Minister, Mr. Sajib Wajed, the architect of digital Bangladesh, always inspiring our youth to become innovator first and then entrepreneur and investor. To replicate more best practice and to expand the network, the ICT division will remain close to the South-South network for public innovation and provide all the support in this regard to the more remarkable achievement in this cooperation. With this view, I'd like to conclude. Thank you all.
Thank you, Mr. Ziaul Alam, for your encouraging closing remarks. Now we're at the very end of the program. So my sincere thanks to the dignitaries, to the excellencies, the ministers, ladies and gentlemen, and colleagues, and also to the few people who actually put this program together. Asad and his colleagues, the South-South team, supporting Dennis and his colleagues in Bangkok. So thank you very much to them for putting this brilliant program together and gathering colleagues from all around the world who are listening to this grand ceremony for launching South-South Matchmaker Volume 2. May I now request Dr. Mohammad Abdul Mannan, PA, Additional Secretary and Project Director of A2I, to say the vote of thanks. Thank you very much. I'll sign off. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Ani Chaudhuri, Policy Advisor, A2I, our UNDP. It's my pleasure to have been asked to propose a vote of thanks on this launching ceremony of the South-South Matchmaker 2019-2020 Best Practices. First of all, I want to pay my deep homage to our father of the nation, Bangabandhu Sheikh Mujibur Rahman. I'd like to pay my deep respect to our Honorable Prime Minister, Sheikh Hasina for giving us Digital Bangladesh Division. I would also like to thank Honorable ICT Affairs Advisor to the Honorable Prime Minister, Mr. Shojiv Wajid Joy, for his continuous guidance to us. I want to take a moment to thank you, Honorable Foreign Minister, Sir, of Government of the People's Republic of Bangladesh, Dr. A.K. Abdul Momen, to attend the ceremony as a speaker and share with us your valuable opinions on South-South Network for Public Service Innovation activities. I extend my gratitude to the Honorable State Minister, Information and Communication Technology Division, Government of the People's Republic of Bangladesh, Mr. Junaid Ahmed Polok MP, and Honorable Minister for the Interior and Local Government, Bangsamoro Autonomous Region, to Muslim Mindanao, Republic of Philippines, Mr. Nagib G. Sinarimbo, Dr. Nabil Goher, Assistant Secretary General at the Commonwealth Secretary in London, Mr. N.M. Ziaul Alam, Senior Secretary, IC Division, Mr. Benjamin Kamp, Head of the Development Innovation Team, OECD, Mr. Sudipto Mukherjee, Resident Representative, UNDP Bangladesh, to manage your time and join this ceremony as a speaker to share your important findings and inputs today. A big thank you to all other distinguished speakers for sharing your thoughts on the South-South Network for Public Service Innovation Services. I, on behalf of South-South Network for Public Service Innovation, the entire A2I team, UNOSSC and partners can call it a virtual meetup fraternity. I must mention my wholehearted congratulations to the participants on featuring your best practices in the South-South Matchmaker 2019-2020 best practices. I'd also like to thank you all other participants who joined today and illustrates your thought on the South-South Network for Public Service Innovations. The South-South Network for Public Service Innovation, and I'm greatly inspired by your words. We believe your support and valuable thoughts can help us to expand the network among Southern countries. The aim that South-South Network for Public Service Innovation has made to develop a deeper understanding and broader exchanges among Southern countries by identifying vital innovations and scaling up novel solutions to public service challenges can only be possible if we receive your continuous guidance and support like we have in the past. We all know the South-South Network for Public Service Innovation is working jointly by the UNOSSC, Bangkok and A2A program. And as a project director of the Aspire to Innovate program, I will ensure my continuous support to help the network to replicate best practices among Southern countries. Finally, I would like to take this opportunity to place on record our hearty thanks to South-South Network Public Service Innovation team, especially Mr. Dennis, Regional Coordinator and Representative for Asia and the Pacific, and Mr. Asatuzzaman, my dear colleague, A2A Program, ICT Division, Cabinet Division, UNDP, and lead South-South Network on Public Service Innovation for coordinating and support. Has extended to all of us at the South-South Matchmaker 2019-2020 Best Practices launching ceremony. Thank you all. Thank you very much.
Maybe it's over. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Excellencies.
Thank you. Thank you.
Good evening, everybody.
Thank you,
yes,
sir.
good evening to everybody.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.
Thank you very much, everybody.
Good night to everyone. Bye.
Somebody fell asleep.
It's the former team.
Thanks, Anir. Thanks, everybody.
Thanks, Dennis.
It went well.
Were you there? So thank you very much for staying up and doing it. That's great.
Yeah. So lots of stuff to follow up on.
Adnan, Salman, Sharmin. Thank you so much for putting this together.
Thank you, Bhaiya. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, ma'am.
Good night.
Okay, good night, everybody.
Asad bhai chale gেছেন Bhaiya.
এই ইন করে দিলাম
ওই যে আচ্ছা আসলে
Yes, please.
ঠিক আছে সবাই চলে গেছে
দিদার ভাই রেকর্ডিংটা চলে যাবে